Mayang buntag, mayang hapon, mayang gabi, no matter where you are in the world. There we go. Yes, I'm checking my audio again. Sorry. There we go. Can I hear me? I can hear me. Okay, very cool. Hey, Cindy, if you're listening, can you grab me coffee, please? The, we just finished recording our Chica Chica for today, and I didn't have time to run down and refill my coffee after Chica Chica. But hey, it's all good. Uh, I am going down, and she doesn't know it yet. So hopefully, she's in the process of coming over and won't hear this. But I'm gonna get a freaking haircut at Landers today. That after.
Do you want water also?
Yeah, please. Salamat.
3-in-1 or black? Always
Generally 3-in-1 after Barako in the morning. That's I don't know if she's actually going to go down or if she's going to have Mama and Papa do it. A lot of times she'll yell down and have Mama and Papa do it, and they'll meet partway on the stairs. But yeah, Landers. One of the perks of going to Landers is they've got a barber shop in there, and you can get a free haircut for members. And since I'm the one on the membership, I'm probably going to get a haircut while they're doing their shopping. Uh, I'm it's getting a little bit too long. The other day, I've got a beard trimmer on my razor. It almost came down to a Marine Corps boot camp haircut. Just shave it all off, go to a bald grape. But life's getting a little bit better. That we've gotten patches, that they've gotten most of the stuff fixed. Some of it they got patched back together. We discussed that a little bit more in Chica Chica. The water system they appear to have actually fixed. The kitchen sink, they put a reasonable patch on it. Instead of replacing the parts, they just put them back on and then just silicone the dog snot out of it to hold it in place and seal it. Hopefully that holds. The toilet they did manage to get fixed, and that they patched back together. The one cool thing is we were kind of ticked when we came home and saw that the water was running horribly. He said let them see the bill and they'll pay part of the bill. And so Cindy and I talked about it. We'll compare the bills to the average to the average bill, and if it's within reason, we'll just absorb it. If it's more than 10% over, uh, we'll bill them for the amount that was over. But we're not going to know that one for a few weeks until the bill cycle comes, because the bill cycle had just came when they were doing that repair. Because Mom and Papa had a horrible water bill one time because they had a leak but didn't know about it for like a week. And that was the way they found out they had the leak. And anyways, I don't think it's going to be that bad. And I'm thinking it may be within the 10% that we'll give them for the repair. The AC. The AC is the one issue that it still is not right. When he first went down, he bought a new AC, and it was just a really cheap AC. And it never worked right from the day it was put in, and we perpetually complained about it. And that we finally told him, swap it out, do something, but it's just not working. And he swapped it out with one of the other units that was still here. They've got a couple of vacant places. And the first night the AC worked passably, but then Mama Papa came back and check out tonight's Chica Chica. I'll include some photos. The way they put the ACs back to back like this in a really tight, confined spot. A friend of mine that is an AC guy back in the States, he's thinking it may be just some heat dissipation issues, that the outside is not able to dissipate the heat like it should. Two sides are completely blocked from doing any kind of heat. And the other side is where the AC, where Mama and Papa's AC is. And so down is the only place they really got to get rid of heat. And, heat doesn't go down, it goes up. So I don't know. But the line does freeze up as it enters the unit. The cooling coils do not get cooled. Because he said the other thing that might be going on is it might be it might be low on Freon. It might be just a weak air conditioner that is just not getting the heat exchange that it needs. That there's a couple things that it could be, and it could be just that it's old and needs to be replaced, and being put in that environment just pushed it over the edge. Good morning, Mr. David Brown. How are you doing today? That did figure out what the issue was yesterday with the live stream. This part I knew in advance and just kind of tried to bowl through it. And the phone asked for an update as I restarted it, and I just didn't have time. And they may take 5 minutes. They'll sometimes take 45 minutes, and I didn't have time for the 45-minute version. And so I just just ran with it and was going to do it after the live stream. When I logged off, I did the refresh, and it worked better. So I think that may be a part of the issue. But also, I didn't realize it until this point when I started looking a little deeper into it, that my data had expired. That I subscribed to the Smart 5G data, and it expired over the weekend, and I forgot about it. And so I was trying to use an Edge data or one of the really low, 2-3G type data that wasn't strong enough to be doing a live stream. Because I re-signed up to the other data plan, the 5G plan, and it went back up to the 4 5G, and it's working fine again. So I think it was just kind of a combination of errors. So tomorrow's live stream will be good. We still need to go down and pick up the paroles that we were going to pick up, and I'm thinking about just putting it off until tomorrow and just going down and doing it that way, and just kind of pick up where I left off. And that may be a quick, simple walking live stream through the neighborhood, give you guys a little bit of a new thing by picking up the paroles and talking with them. But my coffee's here. You have to excuse me. You okay?
Just tired. Gotta lay down.
Easy. Selamat. You, my coffee lady, that doing this stuff, I truly appreciate when she does it. Kind of hot and high humidity. I believe it's the mid 80s already, and the humidity is 70% plus. That we've got a dehumidifier in that room, in our room, to help with the AC, and it does help a little bit. But when the screen doors open and the fan in front of the screen door is pulling air in, the dehumidifier just can't keep up with it. You'll never dehumidify the Philippines. But yeah, it's about 70% humidity by that thing. Which for the Philippines actually isn't that bad. I've seen that down in the storage room. We had it down there to help with it. And I've seen it up to 85% humidity on that storage room. Like I say, the dehumidifier works. Doesn't work quite as well as I'd hope, but that's a decent sized room. But I don't know. But yeah, it's definitely a little warm and not as bad humid as it's been, but it's still pretty humid. It's the Philippines. Uh, with just the fan, it's more than tolerable. It's actually pretty comfortable. That I don't necessarily miss the AC at this point, but would like it. For sleeping, I definitely miss it. That one I do need. That I just don't sleep well in a hot, in an overly warm place. I grew up in upstate New York. I'm used to cold weather. I can deal. I tell people I can deal with 100, 40 below zero better than I can deal with 120 Fahrenheit. And yeah, that's basically true for me. But that's what I grew up in. That's what I was climatized to ever since birth. The summers in Arizona, I've absolutely hated. From the year we moved there to the year we moved out, that I absolutely hated those summers. That insane heat with the dryness to it. I don't know if you guys have ever been in a desert type climate, but with the air that dry, even the breeze, it feels like it's coming off of a furnace or a hair dryer. Uh, During the summer, for a long time, well, most of the time in Phoenix, that I was an avid motorcyclist. And during the summer, it was kind of like riding into a hair dryer. It was just so stinking hot and unbearable. Uh, that it was almost a chore to ride. Uh, and for about a year after divorce, motorcycle was my main form of transportation. That I had a 63 panel truck that I was doing some work to that worked, and I was able to go do stuff with it when I needed to. But like I said, I was doing work to it, so there would be time where it'd be down for a week while I was putting on stuff or such, and so that left the bike. And the ex that I gave her the car that we had, and so that kind of left me with just a panel truck. Uh, and like I say, I got through it with no problem. And then a little bit later, I came across an opportunity to pick up a can't remember the year. It was the Gen 1 uh, Isuzu Trooper. Uh, I've seen them over here. They're not called a Trooper though, and I can't remember what they're called over here in Asia. I believe Australia had them by the same name as they are here in the Philippines. But it was a great little vehicle, and I got T-boned on that thing finally, just before Cindy got to the U.S. And after that, my sister, my sister, bless her soul, that she is an outstanding nurse, but not a mechanic in any stretch of the imagination, and she is obsessive about maintenance on vehicles. And she's one of these people that she'll drive around a block 4 times to go change the oil at 3,000 miles exactly. Not 2,999, not 3,001, but dead on 3,000. Do it any sooner and you're wasting money. Do it any later and you're pushing your luck on maintenance. And but her cars are impeccably maintained, and it used to tick her off that she'd go to trade them in, and the dealers, and she doesn't maintain it at other places. She dealer maintains her vehicles, and the dealers would give her low ball blue book, low ball wholesale value for them because they were real high mileage. That she had like about a 60-mile one-way commute to work. And so, she was putting 130, 150 miles a day on these vehicles. But like I say, that they were impeccably maintained. And so she started selling them to me whenever she'd go to do the trade-in. That she'd go find out what they were going to give her for trade-in, and then just let me make the deal, and then included a clause that let her bring in either cash or car, the cash equivalent of the trade-in, and still get the same deal. And they kind of, a couple times they kind of hesitated, but she told me it's either that or I'm not buying a car. And so we get impeccable cars for next to nothing. And she always got Hondas, and would typically get an Accord with everything. Every dealer premium that was offered that year, she'd get on a stupid thing. And so we got a very nice, fairly high-end car, mid-range car for low ball wholesale. But when I totaled out the Trooper, that they had a CRV because they were doing an RV for a short time at that point, and they got the CRV because it towed better than the Accord did, and so that she was ready to trade in anyhow, and she just said, "Heck with it, I'll that before Cindy gets here, I'll just trade in and give it to you." And we drove that thing for almost 6 years. But yeah, it was a great little car. I really like that Trooper though. That was a really cool Trooper. I would love to try and get another one. They had some quirks that the manufacturer put a transmission cooler on it, or an oil cooler. I'm sorry, an oil cooler on it, and the oil cooler, the lines on it were cheap Chinese lines, and they break. You couldn't get the lines for them anymore. Trying to get the repairs and stuff like that was just prohibitively expensive. And so what I did is I pulled off the lines, and one side you could plug without a problem, and the other side that you couldn't plug it because there was a banjo fitting in a banjo bolt for it that it passed oil through into the banjo fitting. And a few people had made, custom made sleeves and stuff like that. And some of them leaked, some of them didn't. And so what I did is I just got some JB Weld and packed it in there. I oiled up the bolt really good and put the bolt in, cut the fitting off so that it was just the banjo portion, and just started packing JB Weld in there, and would twist the bolt, pack it in there, twist the bolt until it finally got packed in there well, and I twisted it carefully out, smoothed it off in there, capped it off on the top, and just set it in the sun for 24 hours to cure, and never had a problem with it. It was just a cheap bypass for it. Yeah, because the lines were going to be like $150 a line because you were going to have them custom made, and it just wasn't worth it to me to do it for that particular vehicle. If I would have gotten more into it and used it more, I probably would have. I probably would have eventually done that and got the correct lines and everything else I needed. I don't know. I may have put in a much better aftermarket cooler anyhow because the 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 forums that I read that a few people did that. They put in better aftermarket ones. Some of them uh, made comment that there just wasn't the benefit to. Oh, very cool. that you can tell them that welcome to the Philippines. That Christmas starts in September. He's 2 months late. That yeah, I get friends back in the States that will tease me about having our Christmas decorations up in September. In the States, I get the advantage of claiming cultural insensitivity at that point. And it's kind of funny on that one. I'll use that stuff to throw back at them. The I don't know if any of you are familiar with American history or politics, but there's a group, organization, whatever, called the KKK, the Ku Klux Klan. It's a racist organization. I'm not disagreeing with that. And it's a horrible no-no to even mention that, and it's considered a huge obscenity. Eh, it kind of struck me a little bit weird when I came out here and started seeing KKK flags and memorials, and so I had to ask about that one, and found out that it's a Katipunan Cup. I can't pronounce the three words, but it's a KKK organization that's kind of on par with what the American Minutemen were, and it's a highly celebrated thing here. As a matter of fact, April 9th is it's KKK Day. That it's National Heroes Day or something like that. But there's a huge celebration around it, and I've always thought about getting a KKK flag here and taking it back to the States. And we've got a big flagpole that, well, not a big flagpole, about an 20 foot flagpole. And I typically keep an American flag up there. That uh, Philippine Independence Day, the 14th of June, I'll fly the Philippines flag, and I'll do that to celebrate Cindy's heritage as well. And so I've thought about an April 9th. Okay, Dan, you may understand the KKK. I don't know if it was up in Canada. It might have been, but you're close enough that you may get the understanding of the difference between the two different groups, uh, and then in the furor that this could cause. But on April 9th to celebrate around Kagi Kagi Tingan. Yeah, I'm not pronouncing that. That the phrase that Cindy just put in there is actually the name of the day, and it is. It's a Filipino holiday, and it's a celebration of their heritage. And like I say, just to be a thorn in somebody's side. I've always thought about going back and doing that. Uh, as it gets closer, I may start looking for a flag to going back. As it starts looking like we may go back, I may start looking for a flag to take back with us. And believe it or not, if I packed it in my luggage, I would either make very sure that it's on a carry-on so that I could explain what it is, or if I packed it in my checked baggage, I would make very sure to put exactly what that is on the baggage, taped up with the package to let them know what it is, that it is not what they think it is. Is that okay? Is that on April 9th? Because there is a Filipino national holiday on April 9th, and that's partly what that is. Uh, if you Google search KKK Philippines meaning, you can actually pull it up. I'll have to do a little bit more research on that one, but yeah, that you will frequently see the KKK flags on April 9th. Okay, thank you, Cindy. Yeah, and I think that's why they've actually called it National Heroes Day. But again, they're kind of revered as the same way the Americans look at the Minutemen from the militia during the American Revolution. Uh, and as a matter of fact, the Klan does have a flag that looks nothing like the Filipino KKK, and okay, it's called the Day of Valor. Yeah, because there is a National Heroes Day. The Philippines have friggin' holidays about every other week. It kind of goes back to the Philippines is the Philippines as people as a people are a happy and celebrating people, and they enjoy remembering their history, and they recognize the negatives and the bad parts, but they celebrate the good parts. And that's something that is badly lacking in the U.S. at this point, in my opinion. But uh, and that's actually something that Cindy and I've been talking about. There, depending on what goes on between now and this spring, there's an outside chance we may not go back. Uh, I guess it's worldwide, but Daniel, is you're sadly familiar with it, the inflation's going insane over there, and I believe Canada's caught up in it pretty badly too. In the U.S., it's going nuts. Yeah, the two flags look absolutely nothing alike. but I guarantee you, if somebody sees it, they're not going to look at that. They're just going to go with what they assume the meaning is. Uh, and I'll actually be decent about it. I will get somehow to have something put in the yard to where you can see what the explanation is. But yeah, that I guess food prices and everything else, it went skyrocketing. One of the YouTube videos I was listening to said used cars, the used car market values, it went up 24% in the last 12 months or last 9 months. And the Klan's flag has a shield on it. And because there's not an official group called the Klan, there's about 50 different flags that it can be. But the most commonly accepted one as being part of the Klan is it's got a shield on it. Whereas the one for the red flag with the white lettering in the Philippines, that one I've never seen as part of the Klan's flag. And again, it's like when we took a walk up by the Taoist temple, and you know that I showed and asked not people not to comment on what they saw, the broken cross that they have, and that's actually the correct name for that particular emblem in that particular usage is the broken cross. And but yeah, that it's I've seen a couple of Cebu expat groups and stuff like that that would uh, nothing personal, but I just don't want that on the channel. But yes, that's exactly what I was talking about. Uh, and that's why I was tactfully not saying you can get banned in YouTube way too easily. I'm pushing some really bad limits talking about what I am, but I'm actually explaining the difference between the two. So I do have a grounds to stand on. Including that topic would be pushing things a little too far, but it's yet another misconstrued uh, emblem. And that usage with the Taoist temple, the Hindus have it. The American Navajo Nation have that symbol as well, that it's a symbol that's been worldwide. The Navajos actually have a name for it. During World War II, you can actually find historic road signs. They're really hard to find. But the highways through the reservations actually had that on the highway sign on the top or bottom. I think it was on the bottom, maybe not on the top. But it designated the Navajo Nation. And during World War II, just before World War II, the Arizona Highway Department went through and removed all of them and destroyed them. There's a handful you can find, and they're usually at a pretty good premium if you can find the original one. And believe it or not, that's one way to date Navajo blankets is in the early 40s that the Navajos stopped using that particular symbol in the blankets. And it just used in the context that most people are familiar with it. Yes, that is an improper usage. and it should be restricted. But to just see it and immediately think that is the usage of it is your ignorance. Um, that I actually found out that it was used elsewhere in high school. That a friend of mine was Jewish, and somebody had it on something, and I asked him about it. Doesn't that bother you? And he just kind of laughed and assumed, said, I just assume he's a Hindu, and that's when he, explained what it was, and to him, that's what he allowed it to mean to him is that it's a Hindu symbol. That uh, the the Nazis the Nazis were guilty of cultural appropriations. And instead of modern people looking at, well, they were guilty of cultural appropriations, they're looking at it, well, it's a symbol of hate now. I'm completely lost. But yeah, these symbols have been around for a long time. Most symbols are not new. It's kind of hard to come up with new, uh, symbols because, yeah, they did. That they were guilty of cultural appropriate. What's labeled as cultural appropriation now, and it's completely idiocy. It's complete idiocy that the people that complain the loudest about it are the same ones that complain about everybody else, doing cultural appropriation and how we're bastardizing, ancient symbols. Well, they bastardized ancient symbols into another meaning that it never had, and then you're yelling at me for just displaying a hula dancer on my freaking dashboard. So I don't know. That was actually pretty cool. Actually, I had a question. I was kind of hoping you were going to show up today. That yeah, it was a long night. I need my coffee. I was looking for the IV line, drip line, but anyways, where it ended, I noticed that you still had the cinder block on the outside. Are you going to skin coat that? And that video maybe the answer to my question. That now, did you? And this seems to be dirt common here. You incorporated the plastic piping into the walls, didn't you? Into the block wall, or did you cut them in afterwards like they do a lot here? Because that's something I will probably do. Whether we do block or whether we do whatever kind of construction we use. Okay, very cool. That whatever construction we use, I'm probably going to do like a 1 inch or 2 inch fir strip, and then put that plywood instead of skim coating the inside for several reasons. But one of them is to run piping, to run electrical, to run everything exposed, so that you have access to deal with issues. Uh, a problem the owner is going through, and these townhomes, with all due respect, are horribly cheap construction. Uh, I asked Papa about how old he thought this little community was, and he was saying 18, 20 years old. I figured at least 10, 15 years old, and could have easily bought 18, 20. Uh, and if you Google it and do the street view, and look at the dates on the photos for the street views. In 2015, the electrical service wasn't even hooked up yet. In 2018, it was hooked up and apparently was occupied. Uh, I'm assuming between 15 and 18, so 16, somewhere in there, that it was occupied. So that's putting this thing, 6, 7 years old tops. In the amount of wear in general, degradation should not be taking place at this point. That it tells me it was very cheap construction. There's a lot of little telltale signs that tell me it was very cheap construction as well. But the unit across the way, the big one of the two big units, the tenants moved out and are not paying the rest of their lease, or possibly didn't have a lease. I'm not entirely sure which. But the water didn't work. The water system completely failed, and I don't know why or what, but they couldn't get it working. And you saw them for a couple of weeks, the tenants coming over and getting water from the different faucets, the vacant places. And, so you kind of knew what was going on. And so I don't know, but yeah, there's some big issues. And the unit next to ours, you can see where they had to put external pipes on and break through walls and stuff like that because they had no access to the pipes. And just because of that, and having done electrical before and other remodeling issues, you can run piping tight to the wall, just fur over it, and here that there's not that big of a deal. And it would also give the ability to put a little bit of insulation behind the paneling too, to help with keeping the cool in. Uh, now you're talking about one of the 80-year-old houses that I realize a lot of these are way too far gone to do anything, and that would be something that I would need to go in and have either an architect or engineer or even a good builder go in with me, that's way more familiar with Filipino supply chain and construction techniques. Uh, but I would love, and then this is kind of a pipe dream of mine. I would love to get one of these old ancestral houses and go through and do the rehab to it. Uh, but that would be the biggest challenge, is making sure that it's not too far gone that you would be better off just tearing it down. That right next door to Cindy's place, Cindy's parents' place, there's an old, pretty good sized piece of property uh, that has got a couple of buildings on it. And we've looked at them, and that's the biggest thing, that there's way too much wrong with these buildings. And a few of them literally have fallen apart. But that they're just too far gone. That there isn't any salvage to them. So at that point, you would have the expense of getting rid of all the buildings that are there, in addition to having the expense of putting in new buildings, so that it would be prohibitively expensive to do anything along that lines. Uh, but yeah, there's a couple places in Sabunga. There's a few in Argyle that I've looked at. Karkar has a bunch of these older ancestral homes that from the exterior looked to be in a shape to where it would be possible to go in and do restoration to them. My first few years in construction, that I worked for a company that we did a little bit. We did restoration work, and it was a lot of fun to do. Uh, Horribly time consuming, and at that era, because we're talking the mid '80s, mid late '80s, that trying to get parts and stuff like that was a huge challenge. But we did find suppliers that were able to get stuff and such, and we were able to do some really neat stuff. But anyways, and that's part of where my love of restoration type work actually came. And I always have liked history, so living in an older historic house, even if there is not any significant history, what would be kind of a cool thing for me to do. Uh, but I also recognize a lot of times those things are just insanely expensive to do. And so, would I do that here? I don't know. I have seen a couple that have been done in immediately turned into an Airbnb type place that is kind of an upscale Airbnb. And to be able to do something like that might be really interesting to do. Uh, so yeah, I don't know, maybe. And a lot of it would be depending on whether or not we could find the right place for the right money and all that fun stuff. So okay, I finished up my coffee. Uh, and we're actually coming up the 45-minute mark. We just passed that. And I do need to get downtown. That I am going to talk with Cindy and see if she's ready. But I'm going to sign off for today. Be sure to check out our Chica Chica tonight. And yes, it will get posted tonight by hook or by crook. I am going to get that up tonight, get it edited today and up tonight. Thursday, I'm probably going to post on how to pay PLDT. Okay, they just came through. Very cool. That's matter of fact, they just came through. I skipped a groove. I'm sorry. The, but I'm going to log off for this morning, and we will go down and pick up paroles tomorrow morning on Walking Live Stream with Papa. But from today, from Toad Chip Compound, Mabuhay.